My cell phone booster works. We don't drop any more calls ever since we put it in. However, my data transfer is still fairly slow, okay? So today we're gonna upgrade that and see if we can get that to work even better. So we have Mitch from HiBoost. Come on in, Mitch. And he's gonna hopefully get us a booster that can work better than what I did. So Mitch, tell me what we're doing.
Yeah, we're going to be installing one of the HiBoost Home 10Ks. It's our second most powerful residential unit. Boosts all bands and the data that Eric is missing.
And we have Nick here. He's going to do the install. So you did a little bit of testing already, and so you think we're having an overload?
Yes, the first indication is the booster. Shows the blinking lights that, you know, the manual says this light means this band is overloaded, and it is the LTE bands that we're using. So it's the AT&T LTE signal that you're getting. That band is overloaded.
Okay.
And it's a very common issue when you have a close tower that you know, the booster's receiving too much signal, so it says I need to shut down a little bit because I don't want to overload everybody around me. I don't want to cause oscillation or interference. It's very bad. AT&T would come shut you down if the booster was causing problems like that. So the booster shuts down by itself, and it says, you know, I'm not going to do anything until you adjust the antenna or something like that.
Okay.
So it's the overload sensitivity that is our issue. There's an antenna on that band that's too close to you and giving you too much power.
Okay, so your booster has kind of some bells and whistles that the current one that I have doesn't have, which is kind of an LCD screen. Tell me what that does.
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to do was make the signal boosters more consumer friendly. And because people like you and I are, you know, not engineers, we can't just plug and play, install it, and have it just working great. So while the booster does have automatic gain control, we have a manual function combined with the LCD screen. That way you can fine tune it and stop these overloads.
Well, hopefully that'll make Nick's job a lot easier. So anyway, we're gonna get this install going, or, you know, this upgrade, and you guys can follow along.
All right, here we got the HiBoost Home 10K. It's perfect for mid-size homes and small offices. And it's really great at boosting that 4G LTE data that Eric is missing. So let's take a look at what comes inside the kit. So inside you have the booster itself. Internal panel antenna. An outdoor logarithmic periodic antenna, very powerful. And of course, it's your power source and wall mounts, typical stuff you'll need to actually get it set up. This I brought, it's one of our travel 4G. Basically, you just hook it up on your you know, truck, whatever. Gives you cell phone signal wherever you go.
Okay, so that's for the car?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna give it to you. I gave one to Nick too.
How does that work?
I mean, it's just a smaller version of one of these. It's really simple to set up. You literally just like put like a magnet mounted antenna on the back, one on the inside. Booster goes like in the center console, and it'll keep you connected no matter where you are. County road, in the big city.
I'm hardly ever in the country, so why would I need that?
I don't know how I got the impression that the Barndominium builder would be out of the country.
Antenna right above him. And what is the signal here?
Currently, wait for it to refresh. Right here on this corner of the desk, we're getting, and that is on the LTE frequency for AT&T.
Okay. What does that mean? Negative 107, what does that mean?
Negative 107 is very low signal.
So we're no longer dropping calls, but yet our data transfer is pretty slow.
Right. You start dropping calls between 110 and 120.
Okay.
And at above 120, I would say you have no signal.
Okay.
If you're in the 90s, you generally PG, lower that by 10 decibels. You lose calls at 100 to 110.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we're at negative what?
Negative 10, let's see, oops. Negative 106 still, right here on this corner.
So we're at negative 106. We want to get it as close to 80 as possible. I mean, 90s is good.
Right, 90s is very good. If we can get into the 90s, that'll be good. The issue with the overloading is the difference between the sensitivity of the two boosters. Okay. So if they're the exact same circuitry, and we have an adjustment.
We're in Robert's office. We're going to check the signal here. Because like I said, I have an antenna right above him.
Right here on this corner of the desk, we're getting negative 106 dBm. Negative 107 is very low signal. It's still usable, but it's very low.
So that's the reason we're no longer dropping calls, but yet our data transfer is pretty slow.
Right. You start dropping calls between 110 and 120.
Okay.
And at above 120, I would say you have no signal.
Okay.
If you're in the 90s, you're generally pretty good. 80s, you're fantastic with LTE. With 3G, lower that by 10 decibels. You lose calls at 100 to 110. If we can get into the 90s, that'll be good. The issue with the overloading is the difference between the sensitivity of the two boosters. The booster says, I'm getting too much power, I need to turn down my power.
Okay.
So it turns it down automatically by 10 to 15 decibels depending on the booster and the circuitry involved.
Okay.
Well, if we can take that booster that we're installing now and adjust it more precisely per decibel or something like that, and we go down 5 decibels, and that solves our overload issue, then we don't have to lose the whole 10 to 15 decibels.
I see, because the current booster that I have has a set number that it's going to detune by, in a sense. So, for example, it may only need to detune by 5, but because its setting is, let's just say 10 or 15, it does that. It takes away 15 when in reality all it needed to take away was 5.
Right.
So if we can get this new booster to only take away what it needs to take away so it can be happy, then obviously we would have better performance.
Exactly. Now, just a disclaimer, don't say 5, 10 decibels, I'm getting exactly this number. I don't know the exact number that it reduces by from this particular manufacturer on this model.
Well, it was just an example.
Yeah,
it was an example.
It was just an example.
All right, let's go see what we can do with it.
These bands are blinking green and orange. That means they're getting overloaded. They're too close to the tower. This band is one we're using for our AT&T signal in that office. So this is the band we have to turn green, or replace the booster, and that's the band that we have to get working well. Yeah, this plate, you face this hook up, and there's a sleeve on the back of here that slides right on it, so you can just slide right on there. My first commercial install in a data center, it was big. It didn't work. I could not figure out why it didn't work. I had the indoor and the outdoor antenna mixed. Terrible, terrible. Uplink, downlink, that's the gain of the booster on this list here. And there's LTE 700, that's the one we're going for. There's cell 800, I'm sorry, which is the old analog frequencies, but it's also the long-range digital frequencies when they switch it to digital. PCS 1900, Sprint's been advertising for that for years. Doesn't propagate as far, but it's still effective. AWS, that's a 4G frequency. It's not as fast as LTE. T-Mobile uses 2100 a lot. I would say wait about 10 minutes before we go and start comparing that signal by your desk. I want to know what ISO and ALC and off mean. So we got to read that.
ISO is going to be, like say your antennas are too close and you're getting some oscillation. So basically that just means, your antennas are either within 20 feet of each other or they're facing each other, which causes them, radio waves, when they get matched up, they just fizzle out.
I equate it to a speaker and a microphone. It's feedback. So when the rock star has his microphone too close to the guitar and the speakers and all that, and it makes a loud noise, nobody can read their brains because it's so loud. Well, you don't hear these frequencies, but cell phones do, and you can knock somebody driving by on the highway, talking on the phone, they can't talk on the phone anymore because their frequencies are completely jammed with the oscillation of these boosters. All of these boosters have to have protection against that, and that's what that indication is. 82.
That's good. That's like 5 bars, like strong 5 bars.
Let's confirm this. Yes, I got 5 bars solid, 81 decibels. Something's way different about that amplifier.
76.
76. What is happening? Somebody do a speed test. Do you have a speedtest.net app?
Yeah, I can
do.
My goodness, we're at 88 now. I mean, the booster is probably still finding itself. It's probably still auto-calibrated. If you got 72, then it might land there. We'll see. Okay, we're back at 101 now, so I don't know what the dip was. Any of these boosters, once you plug them in, they're going to start auto-calibrating based on the service in the area, based on the towers, and all the different cell signals around it. So it's going to adjust and make sure the carriers are happy while giving you the best signal possible.
Okay.
How long that takes, it depends on the booster, it depends on the company that makes the booster, the circuitry in that particular one. But 10 minutes is a good time to wait. We've waited that 10 minutes. And we are at negative 101. With the other booster, we were getting a solid 106. We sat here for a little bit, and it was 106 the whole time. Now we are at 101, and it's been at 101 or lower for a while. So I'm pretty firm that we're getting 5 decibels better than the other booster with this booster.
So, and we haven't even done anything with the antenna.
We've done nothing with any of the antennas.
All we did was switch out the boosters. So now we're going to install the antenna and see if that makes a difference.
What we need to do is figure out where the best place to point the antenna is. Let's say this is your building. The building's a big box, and your tower is somewhere around it, and you can't see it. But your phone is getting its signal from a tower, and you want to figure out what direction that tower's in. So what I do is, if you stand here and you're getting a good signal, you don't know what direction it's coming from. You want the building to block it. So you want to get as close to the center of that building as possible so that you can only get stuff coming from this direction, or out in front of you. Nothing from behind you. So I get here, measure the signal strength, I stand there for about 30 seconds, see it fluctuate, see where it lands, get the signal there, 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 and there. And there will be a difference. So you get the strongest signal on one of those sides, and you'll know that the signal is coming from vaguely that direction.
So now he's going to go take the antenna and start moving it, adjusting it, trying to fine tune where it is. And I'm going to go up in the attic and use the LCD screen and the manual gain control to fine tune, see if we can't get that reading lower than 102 in the office.
In your manual, it'll show the screen and it shows the power in decibels. And if you look here, 12 is the maximum you can get. So if it's overloading, it'll reduce that down to -3, I believe. And we are getting some low readings, which means we're not getting all the power we can possibly get. So he's looking for the number 12, or something close to the number 12, especially on the LTE 700 band for our situation.
That's bad. It went down to 6, now 4.
Okay,
6.
so then we're gonna go the other direction. How does that do?
Now it's at like 9, 10, so better.
Okay. Now, I'm going to point in that same direction, but change the polarity. So, now the antenna is vertically polarized, not vertically pointing. But 12. Okay, well let me turn it a little bit more and see what we get. How about now? 12's across the board now. Okay. Well, that either means we're getting no signal or we're in just the right spot. So let me go down there and let's check what the office has to say. So we get our signal strength. We're not going to listen to this number. It says 88 right now, but it's not real. We just got in here. We've got to wait for it to stabilize. Sometimes if I want to hurry it up, if I'm not seeing any motion in the number at all, I make a call. It got better. It was at 88, now it's at 78.
Wow.
Let's try that speed test one more time and see how it goes.
Ooh, that's huge.
That is a huge difference. We were at 0.5 on your phone, I believe?
It was 0.98 on the download.
0.98. That's, you can do stuff with that, but not much.
Yeah.
This you can use.
That was 5 times
Whoa,
strong.
look at that.
Wow, that's fantastic. So the booster gained us a little bit. The direction of the antenna gained us a lot.
Yeah.
You can see the difference.
So this is new booster, old antenna direction, new booster, new antenna direction. The feature that we used was the automatic gain control. Almost all boosters have that. This particular booster shows you what it's doing. It said, I'm reducing the signal strength by 3 decibels, 10 decibels. If you're at the full 12 decibels, that means you're good to go. You have no overload situation. The fact that this showed you that gave us instant results. I pointed the antenna one direction, he said, not as good. I pointed the antenna another direction, he said, that's much better. And then he said, that direction is perfect. Instant results. Not waiting for your phone to refresh. It's instantly telling you what your results are. So what we have here is the outside antenna with its mounting hardware, the inside antenna with its mounting hardware, and the cables. One goes from the inside antenna to the booster, and one goes from the outside antenna to the booster. Now for this install, we already had the cables run from a previous booster install, so we won't be using these, but you can run these just the same way you would run any other cable that may be available. This here is an antenna mount that we adapted to be magnetic. Since these are steel buildings, it's handy if you want to put it right in the middle of the roof. You can just put a magnet on the roof and not worry about drilling or sealing or anything like that, so it doesn't cause any problems with your roof. So what we have here is a regular satellite dish mount. I believe this one was for a wireless network booster. I got it at a wireless networking place. Well, all we need is something we can mount with a pole sticking off of it so that these clamps can clamp around it. What I did with this one is I put a 1/4-inch bolt through it and a magnet. I bought these magnets from, the clean ones are from Harbor Freight, and the ones with the glue on them are from Tractor Supply. Packages look like this. These are the adjustment bolts right here that come on the mount, so you loosen this up, and then you can change the angle. So if you have a pitch on your roof that doesn't match, you know, the previous place you were or whatever, you can adjust that to change the angle of the antenna to match the pitch of the roof or the slant of the base. Roof pitch, antenna straight. So we'll be mounting this on this pole, and then we'll use these magnets to stick it to the roof of this steel building. This bracket cable goes through it, and you can mount it at different angles depending on whatever configuration you might need. Almost always it's going to be straight like this. Now you can mount this onto a pole up to about 1.5 inches wide. This one is only about 1.25 inches or 1 inch, but it's adjustable. This goes here, makes contact with the pole, and as you can see with this in place, it's a nice spot for a round pole. And the washers and nuts go on the other side. Now you can see one pole is slotted, so you can adjust it. So let's say the pole is this way, you can adjust it downward or flip it over and point it upward. Another good point is if you don't have an adjustable pole, if you just have a vertical pole but you want to tilt it this way and that way, you can just use the bracket to tilt it. So all of these nuts, they have lock washers on them that helps them not back out. Put always some force on them so that if something shakes, they don't back out. These, the ones that I picked out, are nylock nuts. They have a nylon ring inside them. They're very common. I got them from Home Depot. But you do need some kind of a locking nut when you put these things together, or else otherwise the wind and the shaking and the vibration will eventually back that nut off, and this thing will just start coming apart. Okay, so this antenna is what we were using to find the best signal. Screwed it onto a 2x4, and as you can see, it's been up here for a while. It's from the old booster system. Then we found it, and then we turned it this way. That's the polarization, and found that it's best polarized vertically, pointed in that direction. But now we've got this new antenna that came with the kit. We're going to go ahead and disconnect it from the old antenna and connect it to the new antenna. It's usually either N connectors or F connectors, which is the normal cable TV connector. And make it nice and snug, not over tight. You don't want to break the connector, but just make sure you feel that rubber seal inside there kind of grab a little bit. So you can see this has our magnetic base, but since this is a wavy roof, it doesn't stick very well. So I'm going to brace it with some, this is called fence wire, galvanized steel fence wire. It's galvanized so it doesn't rust. And then you can just put it through these holes. And you can use as many of these as you want to help keep the thing stable. Be careful not to cut yourself on the end of the wire. And there's an additional support. We're all done here. We have our magnetic mount antenna. No drilled holes, no sealing required, no damage to the roof. You can move it anytime. And since it's the wavy roof, these may not grab as well, so we added some guy wire magnets for stability. So if it moves a little bit, it's okay, it won't tip all the way over. So the way these signal boosters work is they take the outside signal, boost it up, and rebroadcast it on the inside. So the stronger your signal is outside, the better your signal can be on the inside, because the booster can only boost it by whatever it's rated at. Let's say you have a 50 decibel booster. If you get -65 outside, you're gonna get 65 plus 50. The stronger your signal is outside, the better your signal is going to be on the inside, no matter what booster you use. you won't get the full power of the booster if you're overloaded on the outside. So if you've got an AT&T tower that's blasting you and you need to get that same frequency on Sprint, well, the booster is going to detune itself because AT&T is so strong and Sprint is not going to come through strong enough. So what you have to try to do is point at the Sprint tower and sort of away from the AT&T tower. That means the booster won't detune itself as much, and also you focus more on the Sprint tower. Or, you know, whatever is the service provider you have. AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, Verizon, Cricket, anything. And the HiBoost has an LCD readout that told us whether or not we're overloading the booster. It turns down the booster and it shows us it's either at the full 12 decibels output or it's at 9, or in this case we started out with 3 decibels. And when we turned the antenna, we got all the way up to 12 decibels on the frequency we needed. So that means we could get stronger range inside the house. When it comes to the frequencies that you're boosting, there are 4 different lines on the LCD readout on the HiBoost booster. The one that we were using for this particular install was a 700 megahertz. That is the general LTE frequency. That is often what AT&T and Verizon use for their 4G LTE technology. Other frequencies such as 800 and 1900 megahertz, those are generally 3G, 2G, 3G frequencies. Those are old technology frequencies that are being updated with newer technologies. And a lot of times they are faster than the old 3G technologies, but they're not as common for 4G technology as the LTE 700 megahertz frequency. Now the other one is the 2100 megahertz frequency that you see on the display. That one has been known to be T-Mobile's 4G frequency. Every service provider can use any frequency depending on what they're registered in the area and what they've agreed to with one another and things like that. So don't take it as a cold hard fact in every case, but generally those are the frequencies that each of the 4G technologies use.
That's how you can do your own cell phone booster with professional tips from Nick. So as long as again, this is a professional. He does this every day. A lot of the tips that he gave us is kind of trade secrets, but if you follow his advice and install your HiBoost booster the way Nick installed mine, you should be able to get some really good results just like we did here. So Mitch?
I mean, I think Eric said it best. HiBoost boosts your bars. The LCD makes it real simple for people that even aren't Nick to come in and install your own, and you won't have to spend a couple $1,000s doing it.
So you can call me, getmesignal.com, all my information's there, or if you want to do it yourself using these tips, go ahead and head over to alternativewireless.com and they can hook you up with all of your HiBoost products.
So all the information is going to be in the description below if you want to order the booster yourself and try it out. It's not that hard. You know, it's going to take you maybe a day or two, maybe pick a good weekend, get some buddies to help you out, and you're going to be able to do this yourself. Again, if you want to get professional to do it for you, then you can contact Alternative Wireless, and then they can help you out.